The Rebel Capitalist Show.
I remember you saying so many times that your definition of a speculator is someone who takes advantage and profits from government stupidity. And so there's a lot of government stupidity right now. So what do you do to take advantage of that if you're a Doug Casey type of crisis investing speculator?
Well, let's look at our alternatives. Stock market. Everybody's in the stock market today. It's in a bubble. And I wouldn't touch the stock market. I think it could go higher because they're going to be printing a lot more money. Whether Trump or Biden, Harris is in office, that's all they can do is print more money to keep the whole thing from collapsing. So yeah, the stock market could go higher, but I don't like to gamble. I like to speculate. So I'm out of the stock market. The bond market, well, that is a hyper bubble.
Yeah.
It's a triple threat to your capital. I mean, you've got the currency risk, the dollar's turning into toilet paper, I promise you. The interest rate risk, interest rates are at all-time lows. They're going back to all-time highs in the years to come. So that'll devastate bonds. And the default risk in this over-indebted world, you're going to have lots of, so don't touch bonds, dump them all tomorrow morning. Don't reach for yield like a lot of foolish people are doing. Real estate. Well, if you're in a small town where you're not going to see BLM marches and so forth, where the people from New York and LA are escaping to, and incidentally, Aspen, which is archetypical of this is a people's republic, incidentally. I'm thinking I'm going to give up on Aspen after many years of living here because there's so many obnoxious people from the big cities that are moving here. Obnoxious rich people, not obnoxious poor people. But small towns, that'll be okay. But real estate floats on a sea of debt. So it's easy to tax, and it's time to eat the rich, so it'll be taxed. So where do you go? Well, commodities are really cheap, but it's very hard to invest or speculate in commodities. Very specialized. What you've got to do is buy gold. I hate to recommend it at $1,900 an ounce because I've been buying it from $35 an ounce. But buy gold because it's the only financial asset that's not simultaneously somebody else's liability. But here's the tip. Here's the takeaway if people want to make money from this crisis. Right now, in both relative and absolute terms, gold stocks are about the cheapest in history. Every producing gold mine in the world has or company that produces gold currently. The market cap of these things is less than the cash that Apple alone has in its bank accounts. That's how cheap they are. There's only one gold stock on the S&P 500. They're very, very cheap, and they're coining money because the all-in sustaining cost, including replacing reserves, long story, we could have a whole show on just gold stocks, is about $1,000 an ounce. But gold is at 1,900 and going much higher. And nobody owns these gold stocks. Fund managers have been poisoned against gold. They think it's a pet rock, but they're going to buy it. And so that's where people should put their money, not leave it in the bank or anything like that.
What do you think about gold compared to silver? Do you see them as the same asset class, or do you see them as serving a different purpose?
Same asset class, definitely. But you've got to remember that silver is primarily an industrial metal. And it's very interesting analyzing the differences between gold and silver. It's a much, much smaller market than gold. Look, there have been 6 billion ounces of gold mined since the dawn of history, as near as we can tell. It's a guesstimate, obviously. And they basically all exist. And the price of gold is determined not by new production. 80 million ounces of gold are produced every year, but that only adds about 1 to 1.33% to the total amount of gold in the world. Gold prices are determined by whether people want to hold it or not hold it. Silver is mainly an industrial metal, but it has monetary aspects. And since it's a much, much smaller market than gold, I mean, the gold-silver ratio right now, $2,500 to 19, that's about 60 to 1 or something like that. It's much more volatile than gold. So when a gold rush gets underway, which it will, lots of people are going to buy silver for lots of reasons, and it's got tremendous internal leverage. So yeah, I'm very friendly towards silver for lots of reasons. We're just skating on the surface of why.
Okay, so you're a fellow contrarian, and one thing I've looked at is the best stock in the entire market since 1968 is none other than Altria, the cigarette company. And the best performing sector since the mid 1990s is tobacco.
Which
And
everybody is supposed to hate. Right, exactly.
Exactly. And they just pay such great dividends. They're such cash cows. You reinvest the dividends and compounded, you just make a ton of money over time. And I was just looking at the dividend the other day on Altria, and it was something around the neighborhood of 8%. So I wanted to get your take on if you see value potentially in tobacco because they're so unloved. And then the same thing would go for the coal stocks.
Yeah, and you could actually go down to the oil and gas stocks, which
Yeah.
are just a teeny weeny percentage of the market, which is on the other side, it's way too late to buy things like Google and Facebook and so forth. So, yes, you're quite correct. If I wanted to be in the stock market, because these are also commodities, oil and gas, and commodities in general are selling at or below the cost of production. So, yes, I'd be there. I mean, right now is one of those times to be a gold bug. It's gold stocks are the most volatile class of stocks in the world. They're more volatile than tech stocks. But because they are, you don't want to be in them all the time. You just want to be in them sometimes. Now is one of those sometimes. But you're quite correct. I'm not so sure. I like oil and gas a lot. I think coal is very interesting because they're really in the toilet. Cheap. Uh, Altria and the tobacco stocks, I just don't know. And I speak as a cigar smoker, incidentally.
Mm.
So it's not like I'm ideologically opposed to them in any way. Interesting.
Yeah.